Right. Hi, everybody. So as Rick said, I'm here to talk about our new and exciting online toolkit for medicines repurposing that we've developed jointly with MRC. But I just wanted to have a couple of slides, first of all, to introduce LifeArc to those of you who might not know us. So we are a self-financing medical research charity. We've grown out of being the tech transfer office for the MRC. So some of you might have known us as MRCT in a past life, but we've evolved away and rebranded, and we now stand alone as a self-financing medical research charity. So we do all things translation, and our main goal is to get that early stage research that's being done in the labs along the development path to patient benefit. So we do this in a number of ways. We offer translational advice. So in our team, we're all scientists by training. And we've got, I don't dare to count up how many years of experience in translation between us, gained in industry, in academia, and in other charities. So we also still look after the MRC's IP and tech transfer needs. We have the translational advice that we offer to academic groups, patient groups, other charities. So my colleague Madhu, who's looking at his phone and not me, in the audience here. Madhu looks after an extensive network of charity partners. So he offers translational advice in all its guises to several charities, some of whom are here today. Caught you out there, Matty, sorry. And translational science, we've got Ed here today from the translational science group. We have our own labs in Stevenage and in Edinburgh, where we work on diagnostic and therapeutic development programs in-house. We also offer translational funding. So in many guises, again, in our group, we manage what we call the philanthropic fund. So that's for rare disease research. And as the name suggests, is fully philanthropic. We don't take any return on that. And at the other end, we have our early ventures team, and they invest in early stage spin-out companies. So we're all here today to talk about repurposing medicines. So I'll move on to that now. It's become a really important area of focus for LifeArc, and this is a quote from our CEO just to illustrate that, Dr. Melanie Lee, where she recognises the potential of repurposing and also the need to improve awareness of the issues and challenges that can be involved, which, as we've seen already today, are multiple. So to that end, in 2021, LifeArc held a workshop to explore those issues and potential problems and solutions to those. We had 150 experts come together, and I'm sure there are quite a few in the room today who attended that workshop for us. There is a brochure that we published of the outcomes, and you can find that online at lifearc.org, or you can come along to our stand when you come to get your LifeArc branded desktop garden. Pick up one of the brochures as well. So after that workshop, it was clear that there was a need for an enabling resource. So that's how the toolkit was born. In the toolkit, which I'm going to show you, hopefully, if it works live, because it launched today, we've aimed to highlight the complexities and the issues at each stage on the development path. And really, it's to provide guidance, but also to signpost to existing resources, because there's an awful lot of existing resource out there, but it can be tricky to find if you don't know where to look. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to signpost to all of that resource which is already there. So as I've said, we list the activities, potential issues and considerations at each stage in the development path. Like, we recognise that not every repurposing programme is going to go through all of the stages of development, because each one is bespoke, depending on a number of factors. And for that reason, it's not intended to be a comprehensive step-by-step guide like some of the other toolkits that are out there. It's really just advice and guidance and signposting. MRC are a project partner on this. We've worked really closely with them, but also with loads of other experts, some of whom are here today in the room. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their time and energy that they've put into this. And it's an evolving resource. It's everyone's toolkit. And we're just encouraging people to come forward, give us your opinion on what you think. If it's not good, if it's good, you know, criticism, praise, anything that will help us to improve it, because it's intended to be an evolving resource. So on that note, to the most exciting part of the talk, we're live today. So as I explained, we take the development path step by step. But obviously, you know, every repurposing project will be entering at different points along the development path, you know, depending on a number of factors, like what existing and relevant data is already out there for the existing indication. Will you need a different dose? Will you even need a different formulation? And, you know, are there any additional safety concerns in the new target population that need to be addressed before you go to clinic? So we had actually intended to start the toolkit with a decision tree that was going to helpfully guide you to the right stage in the development path for your own program. But in trying to develop this, we tied ourselves in knots and realized that there are just too many variables for that to have been useful. But what is universally applicable, and we would advise everybody, and this is the same for de novo drug development, would be to start with developing a target product profile or a TPP short. So if I click on the target product profile page. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a TPP is, and I think from the talks this morning, a lot of people here are familiar with what it is. It's a planning tool. So it will help you to guide your development pathway if you have a clear end goal in sight. So having a look at the characteristics, we are going to put a TPP template up, but unfortunately the person who's building the website's been really sick with COVID. So there are a few glitches, it's not quite there, but hopefully we'll be adding a template at some point because that will be helpful to people, we think. So essential characteristics of your treatments that you might want to include in your target product profile. So who are the target patient population and what are the benefits that you're hoping to gain from your medicine that you're repurposing? Will it be curative? Are there particular endpoints that you want to treat? And again, really important, and I think the previous talk demonstrated this really, really clearly, patient engagement early and often. So these are the people who know what the endpoints are that are really valuable to them to treat. We were quite shocked in developing the toolkit to learn that a lot of drug development programs get right up to HTA stage without having ever even engaged with the patients. And it's at that point they realize actually that that's not what the patients want. It's not what's important to them. So we've stressed this throughout the toolkit: engage with the patients early and engage with them often. So moving on to the next. Multidisciplinary team. Again, you know, this is super important, and we saw this in the previous talk. Translation's a team effort. So build your team right at the beginning. I won't go through all of the content because we'll be here all day and look at it yourselves. But another really important thing that we've stressed early on is partnership. So the best way to progress your therapeutic, your medicine for your new indication is, if you can, to partner, because it's a long journey and there are lots of people out there with a lot of experience who can help. So we are always suggesting that you contact the originator company if you can. That's the company that first developed the medicine for its existing indication. And we've got some useful hints and tips on how to contact those companies. So Diana and I, we had a lot of calls with ABPI members. They don't all have the same process, obviously. Every company takes this in a different way, but they gave us some tips on how to get in and how to get your project noticed and the sort of data that they like to see presented. So if we move on to the next stage. You can't click on these, by the way. I keep trying to do it, even though I know you can't. So we've got the non-clinical discovery phase. This is where you are generating your first proof of principle that your drug might work in the new indication. If you're an academic group, this will probably be in your own lab or a collaborator's lab, looking at efficacy in model systems, so in vitro, in vivo, whatever is appropriate for the indication that you're trying to progress this medicine for. And we give some hints and tips here on how to find the data that's already out there. Nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. We've got some tips on what makes a good disease model, how to find material to test. Importantly, how to secure funding, because most of us will be looking for funding sources to finance this work. So moving on to the next point, non-clinical development. So this is that regulatory phase before clinical trials, where we're looking in a formal regulatory environment. It's usually conducted in an accredited lab to good laboratory practice. Those safety and toxicity studies. Now, this might not be required for your repurposing program, but we always advise people, talk to the regulator. They're really approachable. They're really happy to help. And you might not need to embark on, an expensive phase like this if the data's already there. So mainly in this section, because if you are going down this route, you're probably going to be working with a contract research organization. We've given some advice on how to choose a CRO, how to contract with a CRO, and we're hoping that there's some pearls of wisdom in there that have been gained through bitter experience of contracting with CROs, because it can be a bit of a minefield. So hopefully here we can help other people not to make mistakes that have been made in the past. And clinical development. So this is trials in humans. And again, here, we've linked to the clinical trials toolkit, which is also from the MRC Regulatory Support Centre. There's a wealth of information in there about how to prepare for a clinical trial, how to apply for clinical trials authorization. We're talking about funding, trial design and site, how to run the trial, how to capture the data, because that's obviously of paramount importance. And then we move on to beyond clinical trial section. And I think of all the sections, this is the one that will evolve the most. We've had some input from experts who are in the room here today, but we're really looking for your input on what would be useful here. And the whole thing is an evolving resource. It's your toolkit. So please do come forward to give us your ideas. So we're talking about the relevant funding sources, and this is obviously by no means exhaustive, but we've got some of the MRC schemes, other NIHR, the Medicines Repurposing Programme, which is led by Rosie Lovett, who's going to talk about this, I think, later today, and then our own philanthropic fund. So we're not focused on rare diseases on repurposing only, but we will fund repurposing projects as long as they're in the rare disease space. We've got some more useful, there we are. We've got a page of useful resources. So there's a bit of a description about the BGMA, how to contact them, more on IP, and again, the regulator, how to go for regulatory advice. It's something that we all know we have to do, but I think a lot of people perhaps don't know how to go about doing that, where to find the information, who to contact. And we've got something about NICE, the MRC Regulatory Support Centre, and the NHS Innovation Service there. What brings the whole thing to life, I hope, is our case studies section. So these will be real world examples where people have successfully repurposed medicines. We've already heard about the nitisinone repurposing for AKU this morning, which is a really great example. We have sodium valproate for Wolfram syndrome. We have another couple that we've prepared, but obviously with Rachel not being well, she's not been able to put them up this week. But we will hope to add to this section, because this is what puts it all in context. People have described the issues that they came up against and how they resolved them. And one of the main takeaways from this is talk to each other and learn from each other. And then we won't make the same mistakes twice. The other key takeaway, and I've said this, I think, over and over again, engage with the patient groups. There's some advice in the toolkit as to how to do that. And I'm sure that, Beacon are happy to broker partnerships if you don't know where to find those patient groups, as are AMRC, or come and talk to us at LifeArc and we'll see if we can help too. I'm sure Madhu can point people to patient groups that are appropriate. So that's it. Engage with the experts was the other note that I had here, because there are lots of people out there with lots of experience. Don't do this alone. There's lots of learning out there. Take advantage of it, and hopefully in the toolkit you can find ways to contact the appropriate people. And then I was going to skip back to my presentation. So we've got a dedicated mailbox. We can't wait to get your comments. Come and talk to us. Thank you.